guys are welcome to stand up with us and sing if you feel the groove. It's a call and response, so we'll sing first and you repeat. I want to say thank you. Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so grateful.
So grateful.
So grateful.
So grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so thankful.
So thankful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day.
Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day.
This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day.
This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day.
Thank you for my friends, Spirit. Thank you for my friends.
Thank you for my friends, Spirit. Thank you for my friends.
My loving, my loving, my loving friends.
My loving, my loving, my loving friends.
Thank you for this earth, Spirit. Thank you for this earth.
Thank you for this earth, Spirit. Thank you for this earth.
This nurturing, this nurturing, this nurturing earth.
This nurturing, this nurturing, this nurturing earth.
I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so grateful.
So grateful.
So grateful.
So grateful.
I'm thankful.
Thankful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so grateful.
So grateful.
Thank you for my health, Spirit. Thank you for my health.
Thank you for my health, Spirit. Thank you for my health.
My perfect, my perfect, my perfect health.
My perfect, my perfect, my perfect health.
Thank you for this space, Spirit. Thank you for this space.
Thank you for this space, Spirit. Thank you for this space.
This blessed, this blessed, this blessed space.
This blessed, this blessed, this blessed space.
Thank you for your love, Spirit. Thank you for your love.
Thank you for your love, Spirit. Thank you for your love.
Your healing, your healing, your healing love.
Your healing, your healing, your healing.
Do that one again. Thank you for your love, Spirit. Thank you for your love.
Thank you for your love, Spirit. Thank you for your love.
Your healing, your healing, your healing love.
Your healing, your healing, your healing love.
I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so grateful.
So grateful.
So grateful.
So grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so thankful.
So thankful.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. We are going to get right into it. There's no wasting time around here. It's boom, boom, boom. I know everyone's hungry. They want to get off to dinner. So we're going to make that happen as quickly as possible. Well, our Unity co-founders, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, this is them up on the back wall if you're not familiar with them. They sat down and they wrote down 32 statements of faith, or basically 32 things that they believe Unity stands for, is where it's going, and how to get there. So this is number 5. I'm just picking them at random because I like to do that. This is what they said. We believe in the supremacy of the eternity of the good as the one and only objective of man, and of all things visible and invisible. What kind of world would we live in if goodness was the one and only objective of all things? Do you think it would be slightly different than the world we're living in today? Clearly a much different place than the world that we perceive to be happening today, or the one that is depicted in the media to us each day, or the one that we complain about with our family and friends each day. But when our Unity co-founders sat down and they wrote this statement, and they mentioned the word good here, they're not talking about some subjective idea of good. Not talking about a good that comes and goes depending on our changing relative attitudes towards the world. They are talking about, and I quote, the supremacy and the eternity of the good. A good that transcends what we perceive to be good, which is very different than the good that we experience. What we can experience is an inconsistent good, right? It's a variable good. What we think is good and judge as good just sort of changes day to day based on what we're experiencing. But the goodness of the divine, the goodness that they were referring to, the goodness of God, if you want to call it that, is much bigger than the small perception of good that most of us experience day to day. We have a very small concept of good. The good we experience is what I like to call relative good. Relative in that it primarily exists in relation to our concept of bad. We figure out good based on our concept of bad. Our good is relative to our bad. How good we think a person may be is relative to how bad we think people can be. We sort of gauge how bad a person can be, and then we compare, well, this person is relative to that a pretty good person. How good we think an experience is that we're having or we've had or we're going to have is relative to how bad experiences we have had before, or how bad an experience can be. We know that can happen, or we have had. How good we think life is going, of course, is relative to how bad we think it could be going. And I just was in the bookstore over here, and there's a little shelf of books that we're trying to get rid of, and they're sort of older books, and the title of one of them was 50 Careers That Are Worse Than Yours. And it just grabbed my attention. I was like, that's a great book. Every time you're down on your job, just grab one, flip open a page, you'd be like, yeah, I am grateful I don't have that job. And that's sort of the relative good world we live in. If we can find something worse, we go, oh, this must be better than that. I'm doing pretty good. So that is the world of duality that we have, most of us have bought into, right? There's a dualistic concept to good and the experience of bad. With every up, there must be a down in our lives. For every positive, a negative. For every step forward, there must be something pulling backwards. In the human experience, progress is always at battle with regress. That's sort of how we go about life. And here's a perfect example of this that I've run into many times in my life, which directly applies to us here in the spiritual process. When we talk about the effort of real lasting peace. If you ever sat down and had a conversation with someone about real lasting peace, we're talking about the end to all war on this planet. Or if we talk about the possibility of heaven on earth, actually experiencing heaven on earth, a continually joyful experience devoid of any conflict whatsoever. Or if we ponder the possibilities of the afterlife and we think about this eternal, blissful experience that has an unwavering, joyful experience to it so far beyond our imagine that we just have to accept that maybe it is. If we're talking about these things, we're pondering these things, there are those that say it is not possible. Not possible because it could never last. I've met many of these people when we've had these conversations in various groups. I've led classes, wherever else you might have it, throughout my life. And their reasoning is that this sort of utopian type scenario is impossible because if you remove conflict, if you remove suffering, if you remove all the bad things in our experience, then we will get bored. Have you ever run into someone who has this concept? Surely you must have. Maybe only ministers run into these people. I don't know, but I've run into a fair amount of them. The thinking believes that we need the bad in order to enjoy the good when it comes along. In fact, we need the bad to be even able to recognize the good when it comes along. If we didn't have the bad, they think or they say, we wouldn't even know what good is. It would just pass us by because it would be irrelevant. This line of reasoning concludes that without the bad to compare against the good, without this contrast for us to compare against, there actually is no such thing as good. Good cannot exist unless we have the bad to compare it to. So that's an interesting idea to wrap your head around. They say bliss would get boring because we would need the unexpected twists and turmoils of life and discomfort in order for good to even be recognizable to us. And there are a plethora of descriptive words that I could use to describe my feelings towards this line of thinking, but I will sum it up with these two words. You have to fill it in yourself. So, in the unenlightened consciousness that is still stuck in the illusion of duality and the delusion of relativity that cannot comprehend or even conceptualize anything else but a world of compare and contrast, positive and negative. You can't have good without bad. You can't have light without dark. You can't have joy without pain. You can't have love without hate in this world of duality. This is fundamentally a broken and inaccurate, cup half empty mindset.
We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy. Sing with us. We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy. Let's keep singing that. We are Holy Spirit divine.
We are holy.
Come to me.
We are holy.
Feeling love, healing me. Open my heart.
We are holy.
Allow me to see beauty and love lives in me. You are holy, holy, holy. You are holy, holy, holy. You are holy, holy, holy. You are holy. You are holy. You are holy, holy, holy. You are holy, holy, holy. You are holy, holy, holy. You are holy. You are Holy Spirit divine. Come to me. Feeling love, healing me. Open my heart. Allow me to see beauty and love surrounding me. I am holy. I am holy, holy, holy. I am holy, holy, holy. I am holy, holy, holy. I am holy. I am holy. I am holy, holy, holy. I am holy, holy, holy. I am holy, holy, holy. I am holy. We are holy. We are holy,
So, the cup half empty mindset. Does anybody know a cup half empty type of person? Are all of you those type of people? That's why you're like, yeah, I don't want to out myself. Not only do I know them, I am them. Well, let me try to illustrate this point, and you can see if perhaps you can relate that we do this in our own lives to one extent or more. This is the cup, and it represents how we analyze life or how we look at our life. And with a cup half empty mindset, we look first at how much bad there is in life. We measure out the bad, all the things that are going wrong. How much of my life is filled with bad? How much of my time is doing things I don't want to be doing, or with people I don't want to be around and I don't like? Looking at the world and all that is bad and all that is wrong with it. Right? We probably all do this to some extent or another. And then there's more bad. It's what gets our focus, and that is the easily recognizable stuff. Relationship issues, health issues, career issues, financial issues, political issues, etc. This is what gets our attention first and foremost. The lower, limited ego nature within us is really good at pointing out this bad stuff. It's easy for it to see. First and foremost, it always goes, look, more bad. See, I'm right. And with the relative mindset, when we're always comparing things back and forth, when we know how much bad there is, we've sort of filled up the glass with bad, we can then deduce that whatever is left over is not bad, and therefore that must be the good stuff, right? The little bit that left is the good stuff. Good in this mindset is simply what is left over after all the bad has been accounted for. It is the tiny part of life that has been somehow untainted by all the bad, right? It's only seen after we've weighed out all the bad. We go, oh, but that person did do one nice thing once, I saw, even though all week long all I did was talk about all the bad things going on in my life and the world. So good is the small collection of things that meet my personal desires, dictates, and demands based on my small, immature perception of life, right? I'm looking through this telescope at the world. And my definition of good is very finite because my definition of bad is huge. I can see tons and tons of bad, but for me to see good, it's got to fit a very exacting equation that I have put together personally. So in this cup half empty mindset, good really doesn't exist without bad. Until you've filled up that glass all that bad, do you realize, oh, the stuff that's left over must be good. But that is not the world the enlightened masters of this experience were telling us about or that they were living. And that is not the world that the Fillmores, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, experienced and taught and wrote about when they were creating this unity movement. Jesus mentioned a peace that surpasses understanding. What he brought and taught was a peace that surpasses understanding. And what I think we're really talking about here today is a good that surpasses understanding. A good that surpasses our understanding because we've got such a narrow focus and concept of good that we can't even really begin to comprehend the good of the divine that we're talking about today. A good that exists completely independent of anything else in this experience. It's not relative to anything else, and it's not affected by anything else. Right? This good doesn't wane just because I thought I saw a whole bunch of bad in the world. It's not dependent on the circumstances of this physical experience. It exists infinite and pure and perfect without limitation whatsoever. And as the Fillmores studied and experienced this good, what they decided was, it is God. When they studied and experienced this good in their own lives, when they saw it in the lives of their students, when they saw what was happening in the world and nature and science and everything that was happening, they concluded this good is God. So from the book, The Revealing Word, this is written by Charles Fillmore, inspired by him and his wife. He's defining the term source of all good. God is the source of all good. All good things flow to us from him through love and grace. And then he quotes Luke 15:31, All that is mine is thine. As children of God, we are children of good. Our very essence is good. Right? If we're talking about this divine good is God and that we are children of God, then we are the very essence of good manifest. And our very purpose for existence is good. And there is no other enduring power in this existence. There is no other purpose or direction that we are supposed to be following other than this goodness. So he goes on to define all good, divine mind, God, the principle of divine benevolence that permeates the universe. So now we're talking about not just us as children of God, everything. Everything is the expression of this divine goodness. Now this is where we really start to lose people in Unity, or anywhere for that matter. We say everything is this expression of this divine goodness, and they go, I saw something bad. And I must be right because my perspective is perfect. I have the divine perspective to be able to judge that I saw something bad, ergo I've proven that not all things have this essence of good. If we're going to follow this logic, everything is permeated with this goodness, whether it knows it or not. Key point. Everything is permeated with this goodness, whether it knows it or not, whether it experiences it or not, whether it is open to it or not. It is literally unavoidable in the truth of its existence, but unfortunately, it is also highly avoidable in our experience of it. Jesus in Mark said, "Do you have eyes and fail to see? Do you have ears and fail to hear? And do you not remember?" One of the most common questions we have in all of religion, of any faith really, comes down to this. If God is good, why is there so much bad in the world? This is a question that every single minister has been asked, every single spiritual leader, every pastor, probably every priest, every person on the planet that has any authority in reference to God. This is the question that comes up for people, which is really the same foundation and perception that is based in this question. If the sky is blue, why do I see so much gray up there? Those are fundamentally the exact same question. The sky is, in fact, always blue. But that doesn't mean it can't be blocked or hidden by other anomalies. You following me? The sky is always blue. That does not mean it can't be blocked or hidden by other things. And for us, those anomalies are the passing worldly distortions and distractions of negativity. We can block out this goodness with our own distractions, right? It's still there, but we can become blind to it. We can become deaf to it. We can forget about it, as Jesus was talking about there. Blocking our view of our own inherent goodness in all things, blocking our very personal and valuable experience of the goodness within ourselves. If I think I am a bad person, unfortunately, I do have the free will to experience that thought. If I think I am surrounded by bad people, unfortunately, I also have the free will to experience that thought. If I think my job is bad, if I think my relationships are bad, if I think my health is poor, if I think that I'm doomed to fail and unworthy of this goodness in any way, shape, or form, unfortunately, we also have the free will to experience all of those thoughts as well. And that is incredibly unfortunate. You agree? That's unfortunate. It'd be a nice system if that was not the case. But we were given free will. So, this divine intelligence said, if you want to play that game, I'm going to let you play that game. But the good news is this. Just because we are allowed to think those thoughts, it doesn't make those thoughts true or real. Just because we're allowed to think those thoughts does not make them true or real. It only makes them part of our experience, until we choose to believe and think otherwise. Until we choose to open our eyes and our ears to truth. This is what they said. The supremacy and the eternity of the good as the one and only objective of man and of all things visible and invisible. Before we lay down to rest at night, and this is a real thing I'm talking about now, it is a powerful mental practice to simply reflect on what went well that day. Has anyone ever done that as a practice? Before you lay down at night, or as you're laying down at night, the last thing you do is to simply reflect on what went well that day. Not to first fill up the cup with all the bad things that happened, not to go through all the treachery and ignorance and nonsense of getting cut off and all that stuff. No, skip all that and cut to the good. Just reflect on what went well that day. There's always something that went well that day. What felt right? What felt honorable in this day? What flowed and seemed to work? To simply reflect on what felt good about that day. Put the mind and body into that feeling. Don't just think, okay, there was that instance that something good felt and happened. No, you actually put yourself back into that experience. What did it feel like when you felt honorable, when you felt kind, when you felt loved? You put yourself back into that for a moment so your body feels that again as you go into sleep. So that's the last thing your body's holding on to for the next 8 hours. I know some of you only sleep 3 hours, but I try to get 8 if I can. 3 would be great. I got a lot of stuff to get done. But you put your body into that feeling as you're going to sleep, right? You're trying to change the programming of looking at bad things first to say, no, no, no. We're going to start looking at the good, and we're not only going to look at it, we're going to put our emotions and our experience into that. So we start finding more good in the world, and we start experiencing more good in the world. And then, the next morning, when you wake up, you set the intention by once again putting your mind and body into that feeling of goodness. You know what it feels like. You went to bed with that feeling. Wake up with that feeling. Put your mind and body into that feeling of goodness before stepping into the day's activities, right? Set the intention. I had some good yesterday. I want to have more today. I want to feel this feeling more throughout my day. And as we make this part of our daily practice, we'll begin to claim our divine birthright to the infinite, unwavering goodness of God, which is sitting just there, waiting for us to recognize it. But we have to have tools to bring it forth because we spend so much time being trained how to find the bad in everything. So it's going to take a little bit of effort to refocus our consciousness on recognizing, not just seeing the good, but feeling the good. That's how you change a course of action in the brain. If you want to change a thought pattern, you don't just think differently, you have to feel differently because the brain is more aligned with the feeling of the experience. We are triggered by our feelings. So start putting yourself into the feeling of goodness if you want to have an entirely different experience in this life. And that is the truth as I experience it.